So I think at this point it's undeniable that the Arkham fan base is the most unlucky fan base in all of fan bases in the entire world. I mean, literally, we've been through 3 game cancellations with one studio alone, and then right after those 3 game cancellations, we've been waiting patiently for years by this point. We're at year 5 now. Then we find out that coronavirus has canceled the press conference that the new games were going to be revealed at. Not just the Batman game, but also the Rocksteady game was going to be revealed at E3 in about 2 months, and that is canceled. So now the question really remains, of course, are they going to announce the game in the same time frame, which is that summer 2 to 3 month range, or will they postpone it? But the question would be, what would you postpone it to? There's no events in late 2020, and that's assuming that they're even going to happen. So at this point, Warner Brothers Montreal and presumably Rocksteady are working from home. Development is still occurring on video games, which is great. That's one of the silver linings of an industry that actually can remain open in the entertainment industry. Of course, films and movies, they're all shut down, but video games can still be developed because it's very isolated. It's obviously a cooperative experience, but you can do it on your own and get on Skype calls and all that type of thing. Anyway, whatever. That's an aside. The question is, are they going to reveal the game in the same time frame? I think that answer is yes, which means we're going to get these reveals in roughly 2 to 3 months, presumably online because E3 is not happening. They could do the press conference virtually. That's an option as well. We'll see what they announce with that. But the question really is, what do we want these games to be? And I've thought about this more, and I think when someone asked me this question several years ago, I would kind of have the same answer of like, well, I like a Green Lantern game, a Green Arrow game, Batman, Superman, like all the basic ones that everyone obviously would answer with the question of what DC game would you like to see? You know, it's like asking what Marvel game do you want to see, and you say Spider-Man and Iron Man and Captain America. It's like, well, obviously. And that's kind of what my answer was when someone asked me that question for DC as well. And my answer has changed a little bit. I'll delve into that a little bit more, and thank you, Slasher41, for giving me this video idea. So the first thing, obviously, is a new Batman game trilogy. If I'm crafting the DC video games universe and what video games we see in the next 5 years, first of all, I would definitely put a new Batman trilogy in there. There's no doubt about that. And I would make it canon to the Arkham universe. Now, here's the thing. I'm not a fan of prequels. On the surface level, it makes the most sense to do a prequel because Arkham Knight, even though it delivered a very unfulfilling ending, it is an ending nonetheless. So we want to honor that ending in a sense. I think that I would try to work around that and develop a new trilogy, a sequel trilogy. The first game, what I would do is undo all of the horrible things that Sefton Hill decided to do with Paul Dini not being around. He came up with some crazy ideas, and one of the things that he came up with was having Tim Drake and Barbara Gordon date. Weird. And also, she's already in a wheelchair by this point, which is when Dick Grayson's dating her. And also, Tim Drake has no precedent of ever dating her. So, obviously, in my opinion, what is the greatest power couple in the Bat Family is Dick Grayson and Barbara Gordon. So, obviously, I'm bringing that back as the first thing and retconning that. I don't know how I would do that. Evidently, Barbara and Tim are on their honeymoon during the Nightwing DLC. Maybe they have a fight or something and they get divorced after a week. I don't fucking know. Who cares? So, I would input that immediately. I would undo all of that. I would fix a lot of the relationship problems created for the Arkhamverse with Selena Kyle as well. They have a very jaded, weird kind of relationship towards the end of Arkham Knight. She just jumps over the Riddler building and into the night. You never see her again. Super weird, but then they also kiss. And then there's that disturbing video where their bodies are switched. So I don't want to see that either. But anyway, I think that definitely a new Batman trilogy is a sequel trilogy headed by Barbara Gordon and Dick Grayson. That's the direction I would take that. And maybe Dick Grayson would be Batman. Barbara would somehow become unparalyzed like in the New 52 comics released in 2011. And I would give her legs back so that she can walk. And then also include Tim Drake in the mix and have the Bat Family extend to some other members of Lucius Fox's family, etc. So I think that would be what I would do with the Batman trilogy. I would also create a standalone Batgirl video game, a standalone Nightwing video game, and a standalone Tim Drake Robin video game. With the Batgirl video game, I'd really like to take place in the first 6 months of her career, following the Batgirl Year One storyline, where Barbara Gordon becomes Batgirl unannounced, and Dick and Bruce find out about that, and they're not pleased in the slightest. So I'd follow that storyline and really show the growing relationship there. And also, show a way for Bruce Wayne to be introduced to Jim Gordon and flesh out that relationship in the DC video game universe. I would also include a Nightwing video game from his early career. I think this would be a very interesting game. I would almost make it like a Telltale type of game where half of it is almost like point and click adventure type of thing where you follow Dick Grayson through his early childhood years and also being a trapeze artist and all of that in the circus. I would follow some of that, and then also obviously have action as Nightwing and typical Arkham combat. It'd be kind of a weird game. I don't know that it would work, but that's what I would kind of direct as an interesting sort of action adventure type of game following Dick Grayson in his early years, and I think that'd be really interesting. Then a Tim Drake video game. I don't really know what I would do with him. I'm the least passionate for his game out of the three. I have very strong ideas for what to do with Nightwing and Batgirl, not so much with Tim Drake, so I'll just leave that to your imagination, but I would include a Robin Tim Drake video game. Perhaps a Robin and Batman dual play game where you go into Batman year 4, year 5, somewhere in that range where he first acquires Tim Drake, which would actually be more like year 8 or 9 realistically. But anyway, and follow just Batman and Tim Drake all alone going on missions together and have the first actual like dual play Arkham game. We obviously had missions of it in Panessa Studios and Arkham Knight. It was a great feature, but we've never really had a game where Batman is with somebody, partnered with somebody. And it's always interesting. I always think about that. Like, what if Arkham Asylum was a game where we actually had Tim Drake with us? You know, we actually had Dick Grayson in the asylum with us. Would it just get annoying? Would it actually make the game less creepy? It probably would. I think that the feeling of isolation that you get in Arkham Asylum is one of the biggest creepy factors about that game that make it as phenomenal as it is atmospherically and otherwise. So I probably wouldn't change that, but we could certainly play with that in that Tim Drake Robin game. Okay, so then I would also include a GCPD game. I don't know how exactly I'd go about doing this. I would make it think like GTA, but you play as cops instead of criminals, and it's in Gotham. So it's like GTA 5, but also not like it at all in an interesting way. I think it would be fascinating to follow Jim Gordon as a captain or commissioner and follow him basically fighting these like B and C list villains. Like Black Mask would perhaps be the main villain of the game, and all the others would be beneath that in terms of prominence. Like think of Firefly or Killer Moth or a villain like that, and perhaps Jim Gordon is encapsulating those villains and trying to fight with them, and maybe even his daughter shows up as Batgirl and he isn't aware that she's Batgirl because it's a secret. That would be an interesting twist to that game. So I'm pitching this almost like a Jim Gordon game. I think it would also include politics of the GCPD, corruption within the GCPD, and also Bruce Wayne would be included in that as well, trying to fix corruption within the GCPD to throw a wrench in things even more. I think that would be really interesting. Okay, 3 more games. One of the 3. Now we're shifting out of the Bat family and into other areas of the DC universe. I would make a Teen Titans game. I think with the Teen Titans, you really want to stray away from Marvel Ultimate Alliance. That really is what you want to avoid, in my personal opinion. Not that that's a bad game series. It's just not what I want to see in the DC video game universe. So I would try to find any way that I could to expand upon dual play established in the Batman Arkham games and just fit that out to 4 players instead of 2. And that could be like an L1, L2, R1, R2. Each button has its own character that you switch to, and then you have kind of a limited button set of 4 buttons, and then obviously the analog sticks and all that. That could be an option as well. I don't know exactly how you would go about doing that, but I would really, really stray away from the second-person overhead eagle-eye view of the Marvel Ultimate Alliance franchise. I really like that third-person over-the-shoulder. So that's game 1 of 3. Game number 2 is obviously a Superman game. There would be substantial challenges associated with making a Superman game. I think Rocksteady would be best equipped to do that, so I would task them with making a Superman game. I think I would pretty much follow the same outline of the Arkham games with roughly share of story and cutscene to action. I'd maybe go a little bit closer to Spider-Man PS4 in increasing the amount of cutscenes. I thought that the cutscenes and the narrative in that game was absolutely phenomenal, particularly the moments with Peter Parker. We've never really seen those type of character moments in the Arkham games. I'd love to see that in the DC video game universe. Finally, the last game that I would commission is a Wonder Woman game. I think it'd be fascinating, once again, to follow Diana on Themyscira in a similar way to what I pitched with the Nightwing game and have her in training. So the first hour of the game could be life on Themyscira, her hanging out with other Amazonians, particularly those her age, and then really see her become the Amazon warrior. Really like hour and a half, 2 hours into the game, and then jump into the main action with, I don't know who, Zeus, perhaps Cheetah. We'll see. But yeah, I don't know. I think that there's a lot of potential with all these games. Let me know what you would like to see in the DC video game universe. So I pitched a Batman trilogy, which is 3 games: Batgirl 4, Nightwing 5, Tim Drake Robin 6, the GCPD game 7, and then Teen Titans, Superman, and Wonder Woman makes 10. So I pitched 10 games. You don't need to necessarily give me your 10 game list down below. Let me know what you thought of mine and what you would switch out. And if you want to provide a full 10 game slate, you're more than welcome to do that in the comment section below as well. Thank you guys so much for watching. My name is Slickmuff. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out.